What's up, Night Owl? Steely here, back with another video, and today I'm going to be walking you through how to run the Rime of the Frostmaiden quest, Black Swords, which takes place in Caer Dineval. Oh boy, this quest has a lot going on behind the scenes, and although this dungeon is very small, there is just so much going on. A lot of exposition. So as a DM, you're going to have to do some reading. You're going to need a lot of prep work for this quest. Maybe not as much as White Moose, maybe as much. That's a toss up for me. I'm not sure which one requires the most effort on the DM part, but there is a lot going on with this quest, a lot going on behind the scenes that I definitely recommend that you read up on, get a feel for these NPCs. There's a lot of NPCs in here with their own goals. Everybody's doing their own thing in this quest, so let's just get right to it. One very important thing that I struggled with when I first ran this quest was the timeline. It was really conflicting trying to get a handle on when the cultists showed up, at what point they took over, things like that. And you have to do some digging, but at the very end of the quest text, it says that the prisoners, the servants of the castle, were imprisoned there and have been imprisoned for 2 weeks. This is just like a one-off sentence, but that tells you that the cultists have been here for 2 weeks. The reason this threw me off so much is when the party first enters the cistern. I was reading through the quest. When the party first enters the cistern, they find frozen cultists. Now, whenever a cultist dies, a cultist of Levistus, who I'll cover that in a second. Whenever a cultist dies, they freeze. They turn into a block of ice for 9 days. When the party first enters the cistern, they find these frozen bodies, and the book tells you that these are dead cultists from when they took over the castle. 9 days, I assumed when I read that they were frozen still, that it'd been less than a 10-day when the cultists showed up. It actually been 2 weeks, and I guess these guys are still frozen because they're being refrigerated or they thaw slow. That one I'm not too sure about. That's just something to keep in mind. The cultists have been in this castle for 2 weeks. And there are frozen people still in the cistern, and the speaker has been locked up 2 weeks. Now for the premise of this quest. Go ahead and buckle in. The cultists who have taken over this castle and locked up the servants in the cistern and who have locked up the speaker in his room while he was ill serve the archdevil Levistus. Levistus rules the 6th layer of hell from the confines of an ice prison. He's essentially a giant ice cube wrapped in chains. Now, as far as why he's there and what he's all about in his backstory, that's for a whole nother video. I recommend looking him up, reading up on his story. But for the purposes of this video, he's just an archdevil that's wrapped in chains and a block of ice. Levistus and his cult are looking for a group of adventurers to go deal with the Duergar in Icewind Dale. The reason for this is that the Duergar are currently serving Asmodeus. The leader of the Duergar is actually a warlock who gets his power from Asmodeus. He doesn't know this because Asmodeus appeared to him in a different form, pretending to be one of his own gods. So the Duergar unknowingly serve Asmodeus, and Levistus believes this, and his cult is out to deal with the Duergar. The Duergar play a much more prominent role in the later chapters, but for right now, what you need to know is that Levistus does not like Asmodeus, as Asmodeus is the one that locked him up in the first place. And the Duergar are currently working for Asmodeus, but they don't know it. The cultists, who refer to themselves as the Knights of the Black Blade, have made this castle their headquarters, and they actually get telepathic orders from their leader, Levistus. That contact is only one way, though, but there is a tiefling among them named Kadroth who claims that he can speak to Levistus. He can't. At this point, as a DM, you're going to need to decide whether or not the cultists are going to treat your party hostile or friendly, and this is going to be determined on Levistus. The book says that if your party has done the Unseen quest, which is in Caer Konig, if they have killed the Duergar in Den of Rest, or if they have the runaway author's secret, then Levistus will telepathically tell all the cultists to forge an alliance with the party. I recommend you scrap this completely and just decide whether or not Levistus wants the party or whether or not the party's going to go in swinging. I personally like the roleplay option, as going in hostile more than likely means they're going to come out hostile. But going in friendly, they can either come out friendly or they could come out hostile. once the negotiations are done. If you decide that the cultists want nothing to do with your party, then they have a few options to get inside the castle. One, they can use magic, charm person, to have them open the gate so they can get inside. They can ambush a cultist while they're outside of the castle doing cultist business, and then they can grab a disguise and go in like that. Or they can just scale the castle wall. These are all just suggestions, though. Whatever your party comes up with, encourage them to be creative. And if they come up with something cool, they get in. The alternative is going to be a bit tricky. Unless your party actually wants to serve an archdevil, they're probably going to go in, find out what's going on, and retake the castle. If you decide to provide your party with the diplomatic option, there are 2 NPCs with essential information for the party. Kadroth, who is currently in charge of the cult, and Hethel, who is the cult's soothsayer. Now, the way that I would recommend you get that information out to the party is you have the cultists bring the party before Hethel first. Hethel can give them the information that she has, at which point she will die as she has served her purpose, and then the party will meet Kadroth, who will also provide the information. And once the party meet, the reason that I say Hethel first is because once the party meets Kadroth, and depending on what information you give them, if you mention the archdevil, if you mention who they serve and their purposes, the party may turn hostile at that point. So Hethel first and then Kadroth. The way to do this is it makes more sense that the cultists would bring the party to Kadroth first. So the way that I would do this, or the way that you can kind of incorporate this, is have the cultists bring the party before Hethel first. And then when she dies, Kadroth shows up and says, "Why weren't they brought to me?" At which point the cultists will say something along the lines of, "We thought you were busy with such and such." And then Kadroth will take the party to his office, and then they can discuss Levistus and all of the nefarious dealings that he has. You can bring the party to Kadroth first, but keep in mind that once he says his piece, there's going to be a big tone shift with the party, regardless of what route they choose. Hethel will tell the party about the Duergar warlord Sunblight and how he plans to destroy 10 towns. She won't necessarily tell them how, but she will mention that he has a fortress on the surface hidden at the spine of the world. Kadroth will tell the party about who he serves and why, and at this point, if the party decides to align with Levistus, this castle can be their new base of operations, and from here they can go out and do 10 towns quest in the name of Levistus. Otherwise, they'll probably attack the castle and try to retake it. If the party decides to attack Kadroth right then and there after his proposition, Kadroth is not going to be in a very good position to take on the entire party. He will use his first turn in combat to go through his secret door and recruit more cultists to act as a meat shield while he casts spells from the back line. Once Kadroth is with his allies, he's going to use his concentration to maintain a hold person on whichever party member he thinks has the lowest wisdom score. From there, he's going to use a combination of spiritual weapon and sacred flame to put damage on the party as well as the cultist. If Kadroth is still up when the last cultist dies, he's going to switch his concentration to a shield of faith, and he's going to use inflict wounds in melee range until he drops. Kadroth will only go this route as a last-ditch effort. He would much rather retreat to more cultists to defend him while he continues to do damage. Once Kadroth has been dealt with, chances are a few more cultists have also been dealt with. Something to keep in mind about Levistus is that he can telepathically communicate with the cultist, and at any time the party no longer aligns with his goals, he will do so and tell the cultist that to end the alliance with the party members, at which point they'll all become hostile. He'll do this if a party member ever attacks a member of the cult, with the exception of Kadroth. Levistus secretly hates Kadroth. And that's all that the book really gives you on that relationship. If Kadroth is attacked and killed, Levistus does not have a problem with it, and he won't sever the alliance with the party. How you go about relaying that to the party, though, is going to be kind of tricky, as if the party is brought to Kadroth, Kadroth presents the proposition, and they attack, chances are the party is going to treat the rest of the cultists as hostile as well, seeing as how they just killed their leader. And they really have no way of knowing that the cultists don't have a problem with this, or at least Levistus doesn't. How you present that information to the party and how the party takes it is completely up in the air. More than likely, if the party just outright kills Kadroth for serving an archdevil, they're going to want to take out the rest of the cult as well. If for some reason that they just deal with Kadroth and decide that the rest of the cult is okay, Avarice will be the next in line to take over. With Hethel gone and Kadroth gone, Avarice is the most likely choice. Something to note, if Avarice no longer feels safe at the castle, she leaves. No fight. Which is fortunate because Avarice can chew right through a third level party like candy. I'm not going to go over her stat block, but she does have access to Fireball and a magic item that gives her access to Cone of Cold, as well as a no-save extra dimensional imprisonment. Avarice also has 2 gargoyles named Gargle and Gurgle who will arrive at the castle and attack the party if the party kills or captures Avarice. I'm not going to go through each room of this dungeon as they're mostly insignificant and that would extend the time of this video greatly. The key takeaway from this video and my biggest recommendation for running this quest is how you get the information to the party. How do you relay what they need to know and what they don't need to know? How does the party know that Kadroth is okay to kill? How does the party find out why the cultist showed up in the first place? Who do they serve? Is the party okay with this? Who is Avarice? Another thing to think about is how your party is going to approach this castle. Do you think they're going to try to sneak in? Are they going to try to be diplomatic? Are they going to go in swinging? Will they at least hear Kadroth's proposal? How will they handle it? Will they attack? Will they align with Levistus? There's so many different branches to this tree. Know your party. This is a very good quest, and I recommend that you run it, that every adventure has it, just because of the amount of information that can be gained from Hethel alone. Hethel gives so much foreshadowing by talking about Sunblight and his plan to destroy 10 towns. This really sets the stage for chapter 2 and chapter 3, especially chapter 3. So this is a solid option as the final quest moving on to chapter 2, or just sprinkle it in there somewhere. But Hethel has a lot of information that I would like the party to have. There's not enough, in my opinion, from these 10 towns quest. There's not enough really guiding the party to the end of the campaign. It's a lot of just wandering around 10 towns and wandering around Icewind Dale doing quests until suddenly they got to deal with Sunblight. This quest really opens things up, opens the campaign up. So it's one that I recommend you run, but you do have all of the issues that I've previously mentioned about how to approach it. If the party does clear out this cult from the castle, this place makes a great base of operations for your 4th level party. Moving on to chapter 2, where they're going to be exploring Icewind Dale. This can be the place that they call home, this castle. It's already got servants. They're already incredibly thankful for saving them. You've got the speaker who is now back in control of his town. This is the perfect base. This is another reason why I recommend running this quest as the final quest moving on to chapter 2. For the castle alone, the party has a base of operations to work out of. They also have all the information. In retrospect, this is such an essential quest. Like, I don't think I will ever run another Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign without having this as the final quest moving on to chapter 2. There's just so much. There's just so much in here. And with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know how YouTube works. Hit those buttons, leave a comment down below. Let me know what your favorite of the 10 Towns quest is. And if you're a DM looking for players looking for a DM, make sure you join the Discord. Link in the description. Come by, ask questions, let me know what you think. And as always, I'll see you at sundown.